Okay. Welcome back to Nick Line. It's Comic Corner, classic slash non-classic. This is episode number 1371, Doubleshot number 1265. You're probably asking when you turn this to Nick, is that a new shirt? Yes, it is. I bought this yesterday. And yes, it does look kind of big, but it is a 2X. That's my shirt size. Alright, now, we have two volume 2s from two different companies. First up, it is Hawkman, Volume 2, Deathbringer, collecting Hawkman, Volume 4, Issues 7 to 12. The first couple issues are, now, I should point out, still done by Brian Hitch, who does the artwork, and Robert Venditti basically still does the writing. Yeah, these two are pretty much the creative team almost the whole series. I think Brian Hitch actually leaves just prior to the end of the series, but this is quite interesting, though, when it comes to the New Age of Heroes line. All the books, except this one, kept its original artist when they first started. Because here's the thing. Anybody notice that when it comes to New Age of Heroes line, like all the books basically lost the original artist after issue 3? This book surprisingly kept its artist the whole time. Probably because Brian Hitch basically knew that basically working with Venditti probably was a good idea. So the first issue is simply Hawkman on Krypton again. And Carl Hole. That's his name, Carl Hole. He is a Kryptonian. Yes, a Kryptonian. Which kind of seems kind of weird, but that's basically how it is. Where they chat for a while, and they basically talk about the fact he knows Superman. Which of course he does, despite the fact that the only time he's actually interacted with Superman in this continuity has been mostly in Dark Knight's Metal. But my guess is Venditti must have kept basically a lot of Hawkman's history intact. So you could kind of say like a lot of his like previous history is pretty much all canon. That being said, but what about Savage Hawkman? That's obviously a good question. What about Savage Hawkman? So they talk about Superman, the fact that that's Jor-El's boy, meaning that he knows Jor-El, and the fact that Jor-El's niece Kara was a student. Interesting. Oh yeah, and also that she's also on Earth too. She calls herself Supergirl. They also mentioned that the Kryptonians under the actual the Ant-Man the Fly. Yeah, apparently it's doing here that apparently Kryptonians flew on their home planet via Ant-Metal. I'm like, that's a very strange retcon. And he's like, oh, you don't need Ant-Man the Fly on Earth. Basically, you fly because of the Earth's yellow sun. Oh yeah, he also mentions the fact they can fire laser beams. He mentions the heat vision, calls them the laser beams. He's like, laser beams. Perhaps he doesn't know about the fact that Superman can basically freeze people with his breath. Or the rainbow fingers. But the obvious question, I think a lot of people are like, when was the last time Superman ever used a freeze breath? That's honestly got a really question because I think in the current continuity, I don't think he's ever used that ability. You see super speed, super strength, flight, heat vision, but freeze breath? Nope, not really. Oh yeah, I think he can use X-ray vision, but not that one. So, and just by sheer coincidence, the very day that Hawkman arrives on Krypton is also the very same day the planet is destroyed. Yes, seriously. Just by sheer coincidence. And then basically finds a spaceship. And then he ends up right back on Earth. And the first person he goes see, Madame Xanadu. Chats with her for a bit, trying to find advice. And then the Deathbringer show up. Yes, the gigantic beings. And their general is a guy named Esowich. I think it was the guy who actually started the whole thing with Hawkman. I believe it was. So Hawkman is basically out and fighting the thing by himself, and he's like, and then something really weird happens. By the way, they're fighting over the skies of London, believe it or not. And then the weirdest thing happens is that, as you in the cover, Hawkman summons all of his previous incarnations, every single one, including Carter Hole from Krypton. Like, oh yeah, I can fly. Surprisingly, he doesn't use the heat vision, but yeah, this is awesome. Seeing all these Hawkmen basically beat the crap out of these machines. Eventually, of course, things are destroyed, and, well, they wrap the storyline with Deathbringer. I gotta say, really good storyline. And I'm going to give this book roughly a 10 out of 10. It's really good. Yep. And I personally can't wait to review the rest of the trade series. If you're curious, like how many trades, I think there's about 2 left, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's 2 left. Alright, next up it is Doctor Strange. Volume by Mark Waid, Volume 2, Remittance. Yeah, in case you're curious, they do solve the question of who this other Doctor Strange is. Yes, it's a former student of Doctor Strange from the miniseries Strange and Doctors Out, named Casey. Which I am so happy the editor put that in there, because you probably like, Casey? Who the heck is this guy Casey? Like, what point? Oh, he was in the Strange Doctors Out. I think that came out in like 2010, if I'm not mistaken, that the miniseries came out. And so, it turns out that Casey's being manipulated by Baron Mordo, who turns out that she's actually working for somebody else, and due to the spell she's under, she can't say who it is. Okay. And then all of a sudden, Dormammu shows up. Not only that, and also Kana, who had been traveling with Doctor Strange issue 2, leaves them at the end of issue 8. Well, by the way, I should point out, this contains Doctor Strange volume, I believe this is volume 5, issue 6 to 11. 10, believe it or not, is the 400th issue of Doctor Strange. I'll get to that. Yeah, so Kana remembers what happens in issue, I believe it was 3 or 4, when Doctor Strange wipes his memory about the Time Stone. He basically admits that he had a good reason for it. She walks up, but don't worry, she's not gone forever. She comes back in issue 400. This must put hints of possible, attraction between the two of them. The thing is, Kana is an alien, and she's living on Earth. Does anybody in New York realize, though, that she's an alien? I don't know. Yeah, also I should point out that the Spy Pack Mark Waid does write all these issues. You got a couple different others on here. Yes, for issue 6 to 8, it's Javier Pina, who does issue 6 to 8. He does issues 6 to 8. Mostly he does the artwork there, but he co-does it in issue 7 and 8. 6 is by himself, but Andreas Gonudo co-does issue 7 to 8. 9 to 11 is done by Jesus Salas, and of course Javina is issue 11. There's a bunch of anniversary shorts for basically issue 400. These artwork are done by Kevin Newland, Jim Campbell, Booch Gooch, Carlos Lopez, and Daniel Cunha. Yeah, 9 just deals with the aftermath, basically, of the opening story. 10 is basically the first of a 2-parter, which pretty much celebrates the 400th issue of Doctor Strange, which, second time, basically, Marvel did this, basically, when they hit the reset button, like issue, some 90 and, 10 issues later for the relaunch, because of Fresh Start, that they dubbed that the big triple-digit issue. They also were Avengers as well, where the 10th issue of the current volume for the series was basically, because of Marvel Legacy, considered to be 700 issue of the series. They did the same thing for this one, too. As far as I can tell, for 400, what was the last series to hit 400 by Marvel? Excuse me. Off the top of my head, it wasn't Wolverine. Wolverine, I think it might get close. It might get close in the last few years, but I think the last official one I can think of. Let me think here about that. I think it may have been Kenny X-Men was the last official one I could think of to hit issue 400. That was back in early 2000s. That was 2001, I believe it was. 2002. That was the last one I could think of that had a 400 issue. Or at least basically be the 400 issue. We'll celebrate it. Because you probably think he did Incredible Hulk, Captain America, and Thor have it. Yes, they have 400 issue. In the case of Iron Man, per se, the issue that's probably considered to be his 400 issue that I could think of. It was probably some issue in, I think it was volume 3. But they never really they never did what they did here, where when they got to 400 issue, they actually made a double-sized issue. They didn't do that for Iron Man, so I think the last official one they did, where they marked on the cover, 400, was Kenny X-Men. Of course, at the time, I think it was done by Joe Casey, who was writing the book at that point. Yep. This whole point of the storyline is called Remittance. Yeah, and this sets up pretty much the end of Doctor Strange Volume 3, which I believe ends with issue 15, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, I believe it does. Yeah, this run is somewhat not that long, though it gets canceled because of the pandemic. I will get to that when I get that trade. Mm-hmm. Of course, in this storyline, Doctor Strange reunited with Kana, even though it's probably not been that long. It's probably like 2 issues you last saw her. He's also reunited with Zama. Haven't seen her since... probably not since the end of Danny Coates' run. And Wong. That's interesting. I'm like, okay, so Zama, Kana, Wong, that's good. Where the heck is Clea? That's a really good question. Because, thing is, in this current era for Doctor Strange, Clea has only popped up twice. Yes, twice. Once in an annual. The second time was, at this point in time, was actually in the final issue of Danny Coates' run for Doctor Strange. We're thinking, really? Yeah, really? Yeah, I think it's quite strange. Mm-hmm. And of course, we missed storyline basically looks like Return of Dormammu, which I think is really good. I mean, it's been a while since he fought Dormammu. When was the last time he actually fought Dormammu? He mentions, oh yeah, I basically got a lot stronger, so you were no threat to me. He's like, I'm basically just a messenger. And there's a whole bunch of other type of Dormammu, probably people similar to his power, probably stronger than he is. And then they battle it, and then pretty much that's where that ends. These are really good issues by Mark Waid. Yep. And I knew that 400 issue, I thought it was issue 20. I was actually wrong. I was basically misremembering it. Yeah, because it's been a little while since I've read these issues. Excuse me, but this book is really good. If in case you're curious about 400's like special stories, like right after the defeat of the other Dormammus, who, and here's kind of the strange thing with the storyline, like, and then basically one way he defeats them is by return of the Ancient One. Yes, the Ancient One comes back. Oh yeah, the next storyline deals with Galactus. That should be interesting. Yeah, the first short story they have, the Celebrate 400 Issues, is House Call. It's just Doctor Strange visiting some... This is my Brooch Goose. Just some weird story that's typical Doctor Strange stuff. The Lever... seems like it's a different version of... It's basically like a retelling of Doctor Strange's story. Well, his origin story anyways. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a retelling of a story. The last story, the Mahabina, I believe teases the very next story arc, which deals with Nightmare. Yep, deals with Nightmare. He goes back to his own realm, and that's it. Plus, you got Love, the tribute to Steve Ditko, and various other artists basically worked on Doctor Strange. Like this 2-page spread is really good. I think it's really done really well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in the case of this, really good. Give this book a 9.5 out of 10. Yep. Not much to say about that trade. It's just really good. I think overall, there's about 2 more trades left from Mark Waid's run for Doctor Strange. I think that's it. Yeah, I believe that's it. And there's not much else to talk about when it comes to the current era of Doctor Strange. Mm-hmm. Because, well, I've covered almost everything related to Doctor Strange since it was brought back in 2015. Yeah, I've covered almost everything, which... That's quite something. This book only ended just last year. And I'm on to the final writer's run. Now, I will get to my opinions about the final arc of this run when it was basically under the Surgeon Supreme stuff. I will get to that eventually. Yep. So yeah, that's a particular review. Stay tuned for my reviews for Eden Zero, One Piece, My Hero Academia, Boruto, and Yoshino Princess Half Demon. Yeah.